Hello again, everyone. Today I wanted to do a video about how the French stay so thin. And not just the French, but like the Japanese too, because those are two cultures that people see eating things like, rice, which, it's carbs, and people think, how do they stay skinny when they eat it all the time? And then the French are eating things like, butter, bread, they have wine, they have like all kinds of things, these desserts and croissants and all that. And we're like, well, how do they eat this stuff and stay thin? So, first, I want to say that when I was a kid, like between ages 6 to 10, my family lived in Germany because my father was in the United States Army and they stationed us over there. So it was kind of a time of turmoil, I guess, because it was the Persian Gulf War, plus the issue with the Berlin Wall. So we were there before, during, and after the fall of the Berlin Wall, right on that line. And we got a couple pieces of the wall too. So I got a taste of European culture living over there, and there's a lot of big differences that I could tell you about firsthand. And France and Germany are right next to each other. I went over into France at least once, and they kind of have the same cultural differences as the Germans do, like in relation to us, as far as how they shop and cook and eat and stuff. That's not to say that there's no fat people in Germany or Japan, because I mean, absolutely there are. The obesity epidemic is worldwide and it's a problem everywhere. But I'm just saying, on average, or all around most of Western Europe at least, and in many Asian countries, their people are thinner than ours. And the reason for that is not some, magical, spooky, mystical miracle food or whatever. It's not some little secret that they eat it's nothing like that. Nothing at all. If someone tells you that that's what it is, it's just because they're trying to develop a gimmick for some product that they want to sell you. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but that's the truth. The real reason why those cultures are thinner on average than we are is because of their cultural habits, particularly those surrounding food. And honestly, I think that if we as Americans kind of adopted more of their cultural habits, we would also be thinner on average. It makes logical sense, and it certainly works for them, so why wouldn't it work for us? So, what are these cultural differences I'm talking about, and what are these people doing differently than what we're doing? Obviously, these people do enjoy food, and there is excellent, delicious, absolutely to die for food that comes from these cultures. I think we're all perfectly well aware of that. So I'll just go over a list of the biggest reasons why they can do this. Number one, they take great pride in their appearance. Not that we don't, but they're a little more obsessive about it. They don't just look in the mirror and think, "Oh, I am what I am." They don't accept it. They think, that's not what I want to see, so I'm going to change it, or this is the way I'm supposed to be and I'm going to keep myself this way. And they just don't accept anything else. Now, that's not to say that, no matter how thin they get, they're never happy. That's more like, the anorexic mentality. They don't have that. They have a level that they're comfortable with and that they're happy with. It's just they don't accept not maintaining that level of comfort. And their level of comfort is, can I wear the clothes I want to wear? Do they fit me comfortably? Does my doctor report healthy blood levels? And am I physically able to go out and do all the things that I want to do without feeling like I physically can't do them, or I'm out of breath or winded, or I'm too exhausted by it? So as long as they can answer those questions with, positive answers that make them happy, they're happy with where their body is. Number two, the French make a leisurely experience out of eating. Don't know if the Japanese do this or not, but the French certainly do. Which means that they don't stare at the television and shove handfuls of food in their mouth, and they don't walk around, doing 10 other things and shoving a bag of chips in their mouth. They don't drive and stuff their face at the same time. They basically, they don't pair other activities with eating, and most dietitians will actually tell you not to do that, because then every time, like, don't sit at the computer and eat, or sit at the TV and eat, whatever. Don't do your homework and eat, or drive and eat, because from that point on, every time you do that activity, you're going to think of food. And you shouldn't do it. I mean, you should eat at a table, whether it's a restaurant table, an outdoor table, your kitchen table, and you should take your time. You should chew each bite. You should very thoroughly enjoy what you're eating. Don't just scarf it down. And there's two reasons for this. One, the more you slow down and take your time with it, the more of a fulfilling experience it is. And the more, like, just psychologically, you're going to feel like, okay, that's enough of that. They'll take like an hour lunch and they'll go out with a couple of friends. Even when they're at work, they'll go down the street to a cafe and they'll sit. When you go to Europe, you find a lot of outdoor cafes because they like to sit and just leisurely enjoy their meal and enjoy the company of their friends. And then they will stop that and then go back to work. And the other part of this is it takes about 15 to 20 minutes for food to go down, all the way down, and for your stomach to actually sense, register, and measure how much you have eaten, and to say, you know, yes, I want more, or no, I've had enough. And a lot of people don't know this. They'll scarf a whole crap load of stuff down, and they didn't give their stomach time to really, you know, weigh it and measure it and calculate. And then they don't feel it yet, so they run back and have a bunch more. That's not necessarily true if you have like a like a eating disorder, like, emotional eating, or you weigh like, 400, 500, 600 pounds or something like that. You might have a stomach that's overstretched and you might have to force yourself to limit your portions. But for most of us, just waiting that 15-20 minutes will make you feel full, and you'll feel like, yeah, that's okay. I can go on without a second helping or whatever. Number 3, the French and the Japanese do not gorge themselves on giant portions the way we do. And they also don't go back for multiple servings. I mean, they may eat a little bit of everything, like a little mini, their croissants are not big giant ones like ours. Their croissants, it's like a little roll like this. And so they'll have like a croissant, and they'll have like some mixed vegetables and, some chicken there and a little glass of wine or something. So they got, all this stuff that's really good, but it's not these huge heaping portions, and they're not like stuffing and gorging themselves. And a lot of it's not junk. If they have a cookie, they'll have one cookie. If they have a brownie, it'll be one little 2-inch brownie, and they don't like eat half the plate. And they will fill up with extra veggies. Like they'll have a salad on the side, or like a bowl of soup. They'll eat the soup or the salad first to kind of fill up, and then they'll eat small portions of everything else. Number 5 is, at least the French, they tend to eat yogurt every day. And you'll notice that in the markets over there, things like chips and candy, they get very little shelf space. But they'll devote like a whole entire aisle to yogurt. And yogurt really fills you up. Now the Japanese, again, they do their portions like they don't have a big huge plate of rice. If they get a Hershey candy bar, they'll break off one square and eat it, and then they'll share the rest with their buddies. They won't eat the whole entire candy bar. And they'll have like a half a cup of rice, or maybe 1 cup of rice, and lots of vegetables and some protein there. I mean, so it's like, yeah, they eat rice, but you can eat rice if you just eat like a cup of it per day. It's not so much that particular food that's evil, it's how we like gorge ourselves on it. Number 6, the issue of wine. I mentioned it. Sometimes they'll have that with a meal, especially the French. They don't, like, they're not going to drink the whole bottle, okay? I mean, they'll have like 1 small glass of wine, and that sort of helps clean the blood out, and it's kind of good to add with your meal. And I mean, maybe they won't have it every day. They might have it like a couple times a week or something, but they don't gorge on it again. And this portion control is a cultural thing. If everybody goes and takes 1 cookie and you're the only one who goes back for a second one, yeah, in these countries, people will look at you going, why do you have 4 cookies on your plate, or why do you keep going back for another cookie? And you'll have social pressure on you. I mean, here, nobody thinks anything of it. You can go up and grab a whole handful of 8 cookies and just scarf them away, and nobody cares. But over there, people care. and they'll look at you funny, or they'll ask you, you know, like, whoa, why are you taking that much? You don't need that much. What are you doing? And especially in the Asian countries, there's a lot of pressure, particularly on women or girls, to, you know, like your family will say something to you. If you gain like 5 little pounds, they'll start, you know, oh, you're getting a little bit hefty there, you know, you might want to watch the calories a little bit. There's not like this politically correct, you know, oh, it's none of your business, don't say anything. They'll say something. Number 7 is they definitely are more physically active. You're going to notice that in Asian countries and in European countries, people walk a lot more than we do. And it's not just another country. I've also noticed it from city to city. Like, when you've got, because these cities have the same problems that European and Asian countries have, and that problem is driving is a pain in the butt. And that's because the streets are very narrow and there's almost nowhere to park. And even when you do find a place to park, you got to pay the meter, or you got to park 4 blocks up the street because that was the only place you could find a parking spot, and you got to pay for that spot, and then you got to walk blocks to wherever it was you're going. So most people just think, they end up thinking, well, I got to walk, you know, I might as well just walk anyway and not have to deal with the crazy traffic and the narrow roads and the parking fees. So a lot of them will either ride a bike, take a bus, or they will walk. And I noticed that when I lived in Germany, people walked everywhere. The only time they used a car really was if they were going out of town, or if they were bringing things home that they couldn't carry, you know, like on a bike or in their hands. Like if they're buying a new TV or whatever. But I would notice that there were people everywhere. Like most of the women would walk to the store every single day and buy only 1 day of groceries. And because they use a logic that they don't know what they're going to want from one day to the next, so they shop 1 day at a time. They don't buy 2-3 weeks worth of goodies and stuff their fridge and cupboards like we do, so they could just sit home for days and days and eat. They want fresh ingredients. They want fresh meat, fresh vegetables, fresh yogurt, and they go and they get it every day. And they'll drag, like, all the women had those carts, you know, those ones that you see, like here sometimes you see the old ladies with them, but you pull the cart behind you and it's a little shopping buggy that they keep with them. And every day there'd be women and men walking up and down the streets with those little pulley carts behind them, and that's how they did it. I mean, they use these methods a lot more than we do. We culturally were different. I mean, we would drive our car to the bathroom if it would fit in the house. We drive everywhere. When they say it's a short walk, it means like 5-6 blocks away. When we say a short walk, we mean 1 block away or just across the street. Now, like I said, there's some American cities that are like this too, because they have the same problems, the parking issues and the driving issues and the narrow roads. I've seen this in New York. People walk a lot more in New York because of those problems, and in San Francisco. I've been to San Francisco so many times I can't even count, and you will definitely notice that it feels like all the fat people on earth disappeared when you go to San Francisco, because everyone is so tall and thin, I mean like bone thin, because there's all those really steep hills and everybody just walks like all the time. And you can't get lost in that city because every person has a mental map of the city in their head because they're walking it on foot all the time. So that is it for this video. I just wanted to share what I've seen and learned in my personal experiences, and also reading up on websites about it just because I was curious. I'll talk to you guys in another video. Have an awesome day.